Did you miss the Giraffe Pro Camera webinar number 4, Understanding the Agent's Need for Real Estate Media? Stay tuned for a recording of the entire webinar. Hi all, I am the digital twin of Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. You're watching a special edition of the WGAN-TV podcast for digital twin creators shaping the future of real estate today. Giraffe360 gave us permission to share their August 12th, 2025 webinar. Also, Giraffe360 has a special offer for the WGAN community. Try the Giraffe Pro Camera risk-free for 60 days. Just $123 per month for 2 months with no long-term commitment. Scan up to 10 complete property listings at no additional charge, and the test drive includes all add-ons. For full details and to order, visit wgan.info/giraffe360-pro. If you are watching this WGAN TV podcast show after the offer expires, you can still redeem free Giraffe360 Blue Sky replacement for HDR photos with voucher code WGAN at giraffe360.com. Build your own bundle and subscribe. And now Giraffe Pro Camera webinar number 4, Understanding the Agent's Need for Real Estate Media.
Hello, and welcome to the 4th webinar in our Photographer and Real Estate Media Partner webinar series here at Giraffe360. I'm Samy Jeffries. For those who've joined before, you're probably used to seeing my shiny head. I'm the CCO here at Giraffe, and I'm really excited to be back in the webinar seat on hosting duties again for today's webinar. I'm joined by Mikus Opelts, our CEO. Hello, Mikus. How are we today?
Hey, Samy. I'm really good, really good. I'm quite excited about today's agenda. I want to talk about the 4 eras of real estate, media, technology, and I think Yannis' section on SLAM is super exciting.
Brilliant. And so, as Mikus mentioned there, we've also got Yannis B, our camera technology product manager, and he's live from our facility in Riga, where our camera technology is designed, built, and tested. Hello, Yannis.
Hey, guys. Cool to be back. I'm also very excited about today's webinar, and curious to see what we have today for the rest of the crew.
Great to have you back. So, as you saw on the title slide, the main topic for today's webinar is real estate media production in an AI world. And we are going to explore how AI is transforming the way real estate media is produced and what that means for agents' needs right now. So we're going to start with that kind of virtual tour, look back at what Mikus has coined the 4 eras of real estate media tech. And this is the major shifts that have shaped how properties are now marketed. Then we'll move into a pitch on how to work with today's agents, what they want to see, with some really powerful data we've collected straight from agents to understand what drives their decision-making processes. And after that, a deep dive into SLAM, the behind-the-scenes system that powers accuracy, automation, and AI in our media production process. And then finally, a Q&A. And if you've got questions as we go, feel free to scan the QR code, head over to Slido. We will get to every single one of those questions at the end of the webinar. But before we get into the meat of today's agenda, just a brief update on the Pro Camera release schedule. For those in the pre-order waiting list, an apology, we've pushed back the release of the Pro Camera to September. And the driving force behind this pushback is to get things perfectly right first time. So the cameras are being manufactured and calibrated, but there's just a few more edges we want to polish before we go live with the release. The first thing is the full AI content rendering speed. The new technology means new data to work with, some more updates to SLAM and rapid AI rendering models. Secondly, the video outputs. A round of on-site testing has identified some core areas for improvement. And finally, the capture flow optimization. We need to find the exact sweet spot between the capture process and the flow to optimize the user experience and time investment while making sure that that's aligned with the data requirements to deliver that full media suite. So just to restate, September is the new planned release for live testing and pre-orders, and October for that early bird list. Now, over to you, Mikus, to give us that virtual tour of the 4 eras.
Yes, I mean, thanks for setting us up. And just to comment on the delay, apologies. We'll be around 60 days late from originally set deadline, but I hope the wait will be worth it. And we're really pushing all the swings to make this technology groundbreaking for everyone in the market. But today I wanted to talk about the 4 eras of real estate media technology, kind of. And if we go down the memory lane, the history of this industry, back in 80s, this real estate media and real estate search was all an analog process, and it was going mostly through the MLS books, the printed books, and photography in the 80s mostly still was on film and developed in labs. Then in the 90s, we switched to the first stages of digital real estate search. Realtor.com got launched, and in this decade, around 2% of buyers were searching for properties online. What's interesting, at the end of the decade, the term virtual tour got coined, which means the first remote property exploration, and we're still using the same vocabulary these days. The next decade I would characterize as a digital tool development. In early 2000s, DSLR cameras became a thing and made the transition to the digital camera creations. And also portals like Redfin and Zillow got launched in 2004 and 2006, kind of signaling that there is no home for digital listings to sit, and that there is very specific internet destinations where home buyers going to go to search for the portals. YouTube got launched in 2005, signaling the new era of video production. iPhones brought MLS and emails to our pocket. And fun fact for photographers is around 2008, HDR became popular, finally fixing the age-old problem at that point, fixing the bright windows and the dark rooms problem. Switching gears to the next decade, I would call this immersive tools age, and it started with Matterport 3D tours being launched, and back in 2000, and that's 2013, 2014, the DJI Phantom was the first drone that really took off and allowed very easy drone footage capture. I remember before 2014 when I needed to do like an outside shot, there was like pretty much two options. You either rented a helicopter, which is crazy expensive, or the second option was hire a crane, like a lift, where you could go up and do a photo shoot from the sky. And when the DJI Phantom came out, it was a craze. Suddenly, it was so easy to do a photo shoot or film a video. I think another significant milestone is 2015, Box Brownie, which signals the decoupling of real estate photography creation. Decoupling from person who is doing the photography is no longer needs to edit it. And Box Brownie really made a good solution where you can access on-demand, 24/7 available photo editing service and signal this big transition of images being edited in Southeast Asia, where photographer can be working in States or in Europe. Early AI tools started to pop up, and they started to do lead scoring and some support chatbots. And in this age, around 90% of real estate search happened online. So the big leap from the previous decade, from 50 to 90, which leads us to the fourth decade, to the age we are in today. The 99% of buyers have moved their search online, and they are starting their real estate journey with a search online. This decade started with the big challenge for all of us. COVID completely changed our lives, but now in the hindsight, it seems like COVID was also like a beta test of how a digital first world gonna look. It really, the virtual tours and the remote workflows got accelerated in those couple of years, and we see them taking off after the COVID, continuing the run. And AI, big stage on 2023. ChatGPT comes out. We all get excited about the possibilities using an artificial intelligence at our fingertips, and I think it kind of sparks the imagination that's gonna truly fuel this decade on how AI is changing the landscape. Which it brings us to today, and we wanna, going ahead, coin a new discipline and a real estate media technology, which is a convergence from these fragmented asset creations in a one unified, fully integrated workflow that delivers digital first listing journey. So in a sense, we want to mark a shift from single asset creations where we talk about photography, video creations, floor planning as these different technology streams and different requirements, into one unified real estate media technology, into one unified term that we can describe the industry and what we are doing. But that's on the tech. So it's been amazing actually to see how when you're in the weeds on a yearly basis, seems that things doesn't change. But when we look on like 5 to 10 year periods, we see how actually quickly the things have been developing and how much the industry has changed, which I think nicely segues into the consumer side. Maybe Samy, you wanna talk about the consumer and how the consumer has changed over the decades.
Oh yeah, and I love seeing that timeline kind of laid out, because you can see, historically, like what were actually some of the critical advancements in technology that led to such a change in the way that property is marketed. And also, it's hard to kind of understand exactly, well, is it the technology that's forcing the market, or is the tech trying to keep up with the market, or vice versa? So I think there's some really important questions you can ask yourself by seeing a timeline like that. But yes, 100%. We've seen how the tech evolved. And as you just mentioned, the other side of that story is how those advancements lead to shifting buyer expectations. And so back when baby boomers were the main buyers, like a few photos and a short property description were enough to get them to a viewing. That was the job, right? Get this person through the door, get them excited on the day. And then we kind of go into Generation X, where it's, okay, I want a little bit more detail. I want to see photos for each room. I want to know the sizes and layouts and the property specs before I make the trip. But now we've seen like a seismic shift in the habits into the millennials and Gen Zs, right? It's about context and on-demand access. Like, they're accustomed now to scrolling through highly curated visual first content on TikTok, Instagram, listing platforms, and they expect those experiences. They expect to see videos, tours, lifestyle photography to help them imagine living there. And they're connecting with both the content as much as the specs, right? The schools, the neighborhood, the vibe, the work from home potential. And so for them, that professional grade multi-format media is now the baseline. So yeah, love to see that all kind of laid out. And I think now is a good time for us to switch gears. So we've looked at that timeline, and so much happens in short periods, but we're all kind of working in this world, and it's hard to see the wood for the trees, right? So an important trend, what is an important trend to keep on top of? Who's driving the requirements? Is it the market? Is it the agent? And what do actual agents who are, our viewers, today's customers, expect? So what we wanted to do is to run a large scale litmus test with agents as to what actually matters for them right now. We did a survey with a great pickup rate. We've heard from over 1,000 realtors globally on a few key questions. And here's the results. So first of all, we asked realtors if they work with a media partner. In the US, 60% said they always do, 23% said frequently, and only 17% said never. That means more than 8 out of 10 agents in the US are using professional media on a regular basis, and professional media providers on a regular basis. So that's photographers, service providers. But interestingly, in Europe, there is a bit of a shift there. The numbers are lower, but still extremely significant, right? 30% always, 24% frequently. But that's half of the market working with a media partner or photographer most of the time. So in most markets, professional media isn't a nice to have, it's the norm. And the real question now for the agents isn't if they use it, but who and why they choose their partners to work with.
But Samy, if I can add a point here, we see from our users we have in Europe and in the US, the markets are. I would think the difference is in the fact that in America, agent is very independent role, and real estate agent, yes, works in a brokerage, yes, receives a brokerage support, but is really an independent person that carries out lots of these tasks. Hence, outsourcing photography and using with a media partner is a better mode operandum. Where in Europe we have these small offices where a real estate agent is an employee. Hence, the office manager provides different tools and thinks about the whole efficiency of the office, and there is much more do-it-yourself model being prevalent. I think I would suggest that these are the inputs why we see some difference in when agent decides to use a media partner and when not.
100%. And in the US, I think like a really good way to sum it up is it's more agency, as in like more autonomy and more commission, right? So they've got that space to make those decisions for what's right for their business and what it is that they're trying to achieve. So with that in mind, for the rest of the data, we've honed in on the responses from our US realtors who've responded to the survey. So the next question that we asked is, what's important to an agent when choosing a media partner? And obviously at the top of this, we see quality and price, and that's no surprise at all. They've been the main decision drivers for years. But looking down the list gives us way more insight. So speed of delivery is increasingly important, especially in those competitive markets where agents want their listings to go live within hours. They've got a captive buyer who also needs to sell. The range of deliverables are also extremely important to agents. So floor plans, tours, video are a key differentiator as they try to stand out in a very, very competitive landscape. They can't create a full marketing package for a property with just one content type. Now, reliability and professionalism might sound super obvious, but in practice, from agents we followed up on this, where they're about consistency. The agents really value knowing what it is they'll get every time. And when I've followed up with agents, it's also been around that bedside manner as well. So they're sending a third party into the property to represent their brand, and how that person interacts with the vendor can make or break, a tricky relationship for that agent. And finally, on the list, we saw not insignificant, but ease of booking. So if the process is clunky, it's a strike against the partner, no matter how good the end product is. And when we followed up with agents who answered with this as one of their primaries, they said that the ability to get the media capture booked in then and there can help them get some deals over the line. So if you're working with emails or WhatsApp only, or they've got to call you and wait for a response, it might be time to consider investing in a scheduling system, because they can get that. If they can get that content capture booked in with the vendor there and then, it then just becomes about getting them to sign on the dotted line and move forward with the process. So the next question we asked, taking into account the decision-making factors for agents when choosing a media partner, this becomes very, very interesting. So we've asked them what assets they expect as standard from a media partner. HDR photography is a given, right? That's the baseline for almost everyone. But more than half of them also expect to see floor plans and virtual tours as a part of their package. So these aren't necessarily now premium extras. For a lot of agents, they're part of what they expect to see in a core listing toolkit. Now, 40% are also expecting to see videos, and over a quarter now look for social media ready content. So that's not just images that they can post on socials. That's pre-built social media ready content they can hit their listings with. They've been designed to drive interaction and to stop that scroll, as we've mentioned in previous webinars. So even though that's a smaller figure, it's definitely worth watching as the property marketing is shifting to platforms like Instagram and TikTok. And we see in that kind of historical timeline, this is on fire now with the potential of the buyer and seller audience already kind of active and captivated on the social media platforms. So what does all this tell us? It tells us that the demand is there and the opportunity is there to capitalize. So if we go into the next slide, we kind of know that a photographer or a media partner can grow their market share with agents by providing that full media package. Most photographers stop at the stills. You deliver everything in one visit: the HDR, floor plans, virtual tours, videos, and the marketing, by using a tool that allows you to implement all of that. This isn't about adding more work. It's about one capture delivering everything they want, so they can instantly elevate the listings without coordination, without additional time investment, by working with that media partner. And you become the easiest way for an agent to upgrade their marketing. A lot of people here are probably thinking, like, what's this dude talking about? If it was this easy, then it would be this easy, right? We see a number of reasons why it's really tough to be that one-stop shop and provide that kind of plethora of marketing content now. The first is that it's manual, right? It's editing, QA, and then processing. Most photographers and media partners are spending a lot of time checking files, fixing mistakes, exporting. It eats times, it eats margins, and it makes scaling painful. Secondly, more deliverables is more post-production, right? If you add floor plans, videos, tours, drones to the package today, you're not just adding value, you're also adding hours, delays. And how do you cost for that when it comes to how do you cost that to your clients? And finally is the accuracy and quality, right? When it all depends on a human-led process, results can vary from project to project, especially as you scale, if you need to bring other people into your business, which makes it harder to confidently pitch and, again, to deliver at scale. So sorry, that's a bit doomy and gloomy, right? But there is good news. That those kind of barriers that we've just seen aren't set in stone. With the right tool sets, they can be they can be eradicated. And that's where the opportunity gets exciting, right? Earlier in the timeline we looked at in the 4 eras, we looked at the technology releases and the follow-up impacts they had on the market, like the iPhone and like YouTube with video content and Zillow hitting the market. And AI is becoming a part of our everyday. But how will it accelerate a photographer's potential to become a full media partner? And the way that it does it is it's handling the repetitive stuff so that you can focus on the high-value client work. So it's making that full media delivery possible without adding any time in on site or in post-production, allowing you to control the cost and time investment. And it keeps that quality consistent every time so you can pitch it with confidence.
which I think segues Samy nicely as to then what if we would try to summarize the benefits of the photographers who work with AI. I would break them down in 4 key areas. The first is the production costs, and especially single asset production costs goes to zero. What I mean by that is like the next photography editing, the 50 seconds, the 55th doesn't cost extra dollar. Whether you're rendering 1 or 5 videos doesn't will no longer be as important. Like there's service cost and there's fixed cost, but the single asset production cost is going to zero. But today we live in a world where every asset costs money. The second, I think, is the turnaround time. Today, industry standard is the next day delivery, and typically it actually takes between 1 to 3 days to deliver media content from a photographer. With AI, we see the shift. We can get it done to an hours. So it's what used to take days now going to take a couple of hours. Is the general sentiment, and then greater accuracy and consistency, because we can be more consistent. There's less manuality around the different steps, which breeds a very huge high consistency from property per property from asset to asset. And last, but I think is definitely not least, is the new possibilities. And we spoke on the last webinar about the Gaussian splat created videos, about different. In the previous webinars, we've showed different marketing automation workflows, how we create websites, how we create social media ready posts, and these all new possibilities are starting to we're starting only to scratch the surface of what will be possible. But I think that leads us to what probably is the main topic from today's perspective. What we wanted to cover from the technology side, what's the big unlocker for the AI to work, and we probably can zero in on these 4 letters SLAM. But Yanis, I think you're more competent to break it down than me and Samy. We'll let you to lead the way.
Yeah, first of all, like you said, AI is like a big topic, right? And we thought we need to unpack it a little bit to give background on insights and aspects that come with this challenge. And we see the benefit. The benefit is there. We see the timeline, the trend. It's not even a trend. It's like it feels like an inevitable future, and the future is already today. So we need to just figure out how we get there, right? So we thought we could make a little bit of risky move by going really deep into our technical aspect of how our camera works and how we think about technology that can support our and in general industry's vision, how we think things will happen in the future. So today we thought we will talk about SLAM, or tracking, which is quite unusual topic. We usually talk about images, about scans, but there's a third element, which is tracking, that people actually don't know it's super critical for this AI pipeline to work. So SLAM in short stands for Simultaneous Localization and Mapping. Essentially, it means that while the camera is moving, it scans its surroundings, collects data, and this data is used to understand where the camera is at a given point. And this is a very essential piece, because if you look here, these are some of the full media package deliverables, and as Mikus and Samy said before, they're getting more and more, right? So we need to figure out in what rational and speedy and way we can actually produce these assets. And it's for sure it's not a manual labor, is not really an answer. So we know that actually we need to figure out we can produce these through AI, through automations, and sure, there will be some quality control, but that's about it. How we think this can happen, and we believe that this is completely doable. For automations to work really, there in simple terms, we see there are 3 categories that need, in terms of data, that needs to be plugged in. Needless to say, the data needs to be quite solid, high accuracy, high resolution, and as we have spoken so far, obviously it's visuals, it's panoramas, it's stills, obviously it's 3D data. In our case, in terms of point clouds, But there's also tracking, and this is what we call we nickname it a bit SLAM, even though it's a bit more complicated. We'll go into that, but also tracking, because without the tracking, the camera cannot really communicate what happened, which direction was what facing, etc. And lastly, to produce this data, there's a capture process, and as mentioned before, you could create a completely different flow for each asset, but that's just not feasible. Looking how busy the schedule is and how much gear there is, we really truly believe that there is a way to create this one single capture flow at the start of the journey, which then through the production and post-processing funnel creates all of these amazing assets. It's both faster, more practical, and this is basically the kind of how the game is changing. And I think it's worth mentioning already at this stage that, yes, we talk about automations and AI, how it's going to change, and how it is already changing these asset production processes. But the capture actually is interesting. The moment of capture is still very connected with the photographer or pro user, because they actually have the biggest impact on how good this data will be, how good the quality will be and the accuracy. Yes, we provide from our side the camera, which is a technology, but it still requires a certain way to handle this technology. So with that in mind, with this bigger picture in mind, let me bring you guys back a little bit. Let's dive deeper into the technology that our camera is using. And it might sound a bit technical, but we thought it would be interesting for you guys to get also leave a feedback. For the next webinars, we can unpack other segments of AI automation, but tracking is definitely one of the interesting ones. So, in the most important kind of component for the SLAM really is our LiDAR. And how it works, it's when you travel from A to B in the property, it constantly scans the environment. And this is done by LiDAR in this horizontal position, and it tracks objects in this horizontal plane like visualized here. It's pretty amazing that it actually runs with like 3,000 RPMs, and each revolution is like 1,000 to 2,000 points. So it collects a lot of data. And why this technology is pretty good, because it's pretty precise. All right, it can leverage from the precision of what LiDAR is, also because our LiDAR is also kind of beast when it comes to 3D data capture in their scans, but we utilize the power also in this tracking environment. And so that's all pretty nice, but it actually also has some kind of downsides, some technical downsides that is a cool challenge to solve, really. One of the downsides, if you can just for a second, come back here. So one of the downsides, maybe some of you already are familiar with LiDAR and this 2D kind of plane scanning, is that it really needs a vertical objects at the LiDAR height to be there for the tracking to happen. If there's nothing there, for example, if you're outdoors, or for example, if there's some moving objects, or there are not enough unique features like corridors, the LiDAR and the algorithms, by the way, here as well, post data is analyzed by AI and algorithms, they might get confused because it's not enough unique features or there's nothing there. So one thing for sure, even this high tech is not enough to give a full tracking capabilities. This is one of the reasons, by the way, SLAM is also used in like self-driving cars, home appliances like these robotized cleaning kits. But when it comes to like self-driving cars, it's one of the reasons it does take a while for them to develop because the tracking is still tricky. And so in our case, we kind of figured out that we need to add support sensors to the camera to make it more robust and to make it more adaptable to these corner cases. And this is why we also have a bunch of more sensors. And just to give you guys kind of insight how much we have packed in this camera just for the tracking alone, is there's also a couple of EMU. In short, they also at the same time track your position, your orientation, something that everyone's kind of familiar with, fitness trackers, phones or mobile watches. And this assists LiDAR. In case LiDAR doesn't pick up the objects, we can still sense if the camera is moving in X, Y, Z. But EMU it cannot be answered on its own, because you might think, well, then just use EMU. But EMU has a tendency to drift. We call it like drift. It tends to build up inaccuracies over time, and this cannot work alone as either. So what we do is it's called like sensory fusion. We put these two kind of data together, and together they kind of generate this accurate tracking. When it comes to detecting the height, we plug in a bit more specific sensors, which is barometer, which is basically detects the air pressure, and by that calculates if a user has gone second floor up or down. And this helps us to detect later for the floor plan generation if there's a floor change. And this, it's another kind of layer of tracking that is also critical for our pipelines to know what's happened in what position. And then if we move forward, we have even more metrics that we track, really. One of them is being kind of positioning, like magnetometer and encoders, basically our motors built in a camera that helps the camera to rotate. These are helping us to detect really the angle at any given time, to detect the north. So it works as a compass. This helps us also for the layout generation and general another safety kind of net to understand the orientation and positioning. And we also track the GPS locations that are basically for helping to understand where's the property and to smooth some of the pipelines as well. So as you see, there's a lot of actually sensors, and we're working with sensory fusion to kind of make the tracking more accurate. And I think next we can see how it kind of looks in reality. This is a little bit sped up, but this is how the SLAM looks like from the kind of algorithm perspective. When all the data is collected, this is what AI sees really in kind of live setting. This, what you see, is horizontal LiDAR lighting up, or you detect the position of this space, and this is how we map the location. Later on, this is the tracking data where we know at which point and which angle was the scans done, and combining these two medias, the scans, the visuals, and the tracking, we can generate all of these assets that we mentioned before. Most visually easy to link the asset, which is floor plan, which I think we can quickly show later. So, as I said before, on the left, SLAM, this is how it roughly looks like, but it's still really rough, right? There's a lot of artifacts that we need to deal with. For example, SLAM doesn't understand if there's a mirror or a glass reflection. From the data perspective, hey, there's just another room, congrats, your apartment is 2 times bigger than you thought. But it doesn't work like that. I mean, the floor plan is not going to look accurate. Well, it's not going to be accurate if we just allow it to go through. So we have a lot of compensating mechanisms, like we analyze panoramas, and the AI understands from the kind of machine learning that, hey, there's a mirror. So we compensate that, we filter the data, we clean up, and because we know already the arrangement of the scans and everything, we can do this kind of rough room size estimations, rough positioning, which is a kind of base data, which then is transformed into floor plan, into virtual tours, etc. But the starting point still is good tracking data together with high accuracy scans and visuals, which are then kind of run through these algorithms automatically without kind of, in ideal scenario, without any kind of manual assistance. In the end state, the final asset is being quality checked, but that should be it in the ideal kind of scenario. Yeah, I don't know. Mikus, Samy, do you guys have any question so far on this?
Yeah, so one thing that people always ask, and this kind of looking at the Go camera kind of, is how do we go from the scan to the floor plan, right? Like, how does the this is what people always ask me, right? How does the camera know where it is? Like, they kind of want to understand how it happens. And my answer is obviously a lot shorter than this, but it is always that there's a multitude of different ways in which we detect data. And so I guess the thing I wanted to ask you is, are these things stacked on top of each other in terms of redundancy? Is there space for one to fail? And then does kind of the rest of the picture still get put together, if the barometer fails or that type of thing?
There's definitely a lot of redundancy when it comes to like tracking. That's why we have these multiple layers of sensors. And I will also show some scenarios what happens if they don't work. But there are some fallback scenarios that we can work with. And most, if not all cases, we have a way to fix things, even if it was if there's an error because of the technology or because of the user error. We have some ways to fix it, but the issue is there it will take much longer than needed. Much longer sounds a lot. I mean, usually it's like a day, but in our standards, a day is a lot, right? And the speed of delivery is what really matters and what pushes us to look in a ways and flows that, well, we don't have the option. We don't have a day really. When it comes to this floor plan generation, we actually use a lot of in floor plan. If we talk about floor plan specifically, it's not just tracking and scans, which might feel that way. Actually, a lot of knowledge for the floor plan generation comes from panoramas, where our visuals are used by our AI algorithms to recognize corners, to recognize things like kitchen aisle or a bathroom or specific items that we also later visualize in the floor plans as well. So what I'm saying is, technically we could generate floor plan just from point clouds alone. And we could match them together, and we could also generate it that way without visuals, without tracking, but it would not be as efficient. So the efficiency is which we get is by having this kind of sensory and data fusion together. In floor plan case, panoramas and 3D. Yeah, I'm not sure if my network is working, but yeah, that's kind of
you're good. But amazing, like it's to some extent too good to be true. I think it's maybe you want to talk about the problems, like when the capture doesn't happen, when there is user error or a bit show the dark side of this beautiful reality.
I'd really like expression dark side. I think that's a good way to say it, because
it's literally dark, yeah.
Because sometimes it gets really there's no data, which is bad, and also just a lot of data which is poor quality is also as bad as no data sometimes. And in past we have tried to go this route of we're just going to fix it in our kind of way. We're good at fixing stuff, but we see that it's not really scalable. And if there is an issue, a user should know this right at the capture point, because it will result in slower delivery from our side. It might result in inaccuracies. And it's, for example, if there's a room missing because user forgot to scan the room, I'm pretty sure a photographer or agent wants to know that right at the captures point, because then you can actually still fix it and you can learn how to do the capture properly. And this is why we also want to talk about this tracking, because it's so connected with how you work with the technology, what you do with this capture site. And like you said, it is too good to be true, because there is a but, right? Even though technology is so powerful and so capable, it still needs to be handled properly in order for the technology and all these pipelines to work. So this is where we kind of try to introduce this or talk about the capture cadence as well. which is required during the capture. Here's the same property, really, just to illustrate what would the data look like if the tracking fails, and just to visually show kind of maybe overly unnecessary dramatic view how unreadable this data would be if the tracking fails. And I think it's pretty clear that even our algorithms would struggle with this kind of data to be run through to generate floor plan. This is why, to just repeat myself a little bit, why tracking data kind of matters a lot. And this can happen for various reasons. Yeah, go on.
No, I just wanted to kind of repeat thus the headline for this section of the webinar is the SLAM is the silent unlocker for the AI. It's kind of it's the first step, and if the SLAM breaks, then the AI workflows really can't work afterwards. And I think it's kind of now the headline would make sense for the audience.
Yeah. And so regarding this, what can go wrong during the capture, or let's say what can affect the tracking data quality? And there's a lot of things that definitely help for tracking to be better. This is why we are quite when it comes to our camera, we try to kind of explain, educate, and onboard the right use of our camera. And just to mention a couple of these aspects that might be new for some of our existing clients, but I think it's as interesting to hear for those who are considering to be kind of pro camera users eventually. And I think it's just interesting kind of aspect of technology, how it works, and what is kind of worthwhile considering. Just to mention a couple, the technology works better because we saw it's this horizontal kind of LiDAR. If the property is kind of fixed in time, we call it kind of frozen. By that we mean you open all the doors, you try not to move objects around, because if the LiDAR detects it and remembers there was like a coat hanger, and a couple of seconds later the coat hanger is gone, it might get confused of the change in the kind of physical space. Another good tip is to make frequent scans, because that also 3D point cloud data is another form of tracking that also helps with kind of positioning, and obviously the camera handling as well. Like in the next slide, we talk about keep the camera vertical. And this is actually the key reason why we prefer the camera to be vertical, not like any other direction, because of this horizontal LiDAR scanner. And needless to say, like if you go steadily and smoothly, the data is just simply better. It just all comes down to how good the data is, because at the end of the line, it speeds up our kind of post-processing and pipelines, etc.
But then, Yannis, our main advice to our users is glide through the property.
Yes,
gliding is the recommended attribute of movement instead of sporadic running and something like that.
Exactly, and I understand. Like, this might sound counterintuitive. Might be even hard to remember during the capture, right? Because for some, the speed is everything. You feel like, oh, I can do a speed record and capture this property in like 10 minutes. And good job. I mean, you did it. But if then the assets from our side or from the post-processing comes additional extra 1 or 2 days, is it really worth it? So while we kind of double down on that, you get the best result if you are a little bit more calm during the capture. Maybe you take extra second or two during each scan, but then the assets and the project comes back to you much, much faster. And hence you can deliver it to your client or yourself much faster. And that actually is much higher benefit than that couple of minutes that you could theoretically speed up during the capture if you were planning to rush it super fast. So, yeah, but it's not all that bad. Like, it might sound like, hey, there's a bunch of rules that you now need to learn, criteria, do this, don't do that, technology, all the sensors. Theoretically, you don't actually need to know all of that. It's good to keep it in mind, especially some of the key aspects of how to handle the technology. And obviously, it comes with some kind of suggestions and guides how you should use it. But another aspect is where we are helping is by just improving technology on its own. And in this case, for example, this is why we're working on this scan view, which during the capture allows the user, the person in charge, really to see what's happening. How are the scans gathered? Is the alignment good or bad? This is where the connection between what we show here on the screen, this mini map of the scans, suddenly makes sense, because, oh yeah, this is the alignment is okay. It means that I'm pretty certain that the project will go smoothly. And if I see if all the rooms are being scanned and there's no major black holes on my map, I'm pretty confident that all the rooms are captured as well, and I won't need to revisit the property, which would be really a painful thing to do, really. And this is kind of the key elements how we see we can assist the person in charge during the capture to make this flow much smoother as well.
For the audience reference, I actually can spill the beans that Yanis himself has been designing the scan view for, I don't know, you spent it feels like a good year designing the interface and trying to figure out how to give the right feedback, how to organize the user engagement, and so the user experience is as smooth as possible. But it's been probably a year you've been working on scan view. Design itself, no?
I think we started it around. I think it will be soon, yeah, full year. Definitely around September last year, October we started it, and initial kind of realization was for us, yeah, how we can move away from our kind of black box approach, show more during the capture, open up kind of the knowledge of the technology, and this feedback during the capture is what we started with. And for sure, one of the we believe the easiest and most effective ways to work with visuals, right? To visually communicate, kind of give a preview of, like we do with the images, right? It's also just a preview. The final kind of quality and result comes after the post-processing. The same here. We show a preview of scans, preview of tracking results, which kind of is a confirmation. And this is kind of just the first step. We obviously see that there's, even this one can be many ways you can improve this. This is a starting point, but we believe it is a solid foundation for the rest of the improvements that are going to come later as well.
Yeah. No, nice. I think kind of this was a really beautiful deep dive into the SLAM technology. I hope we will not receive feedback that our audience doesn't want as detailed. I hope this is actually interesting and it helps to understand how we operate and how the technology is built and what importantly impacts it. But I think we can then maybe switch gears and Samy focus on run through what have been the product releases on the last 30 days, what we have released.
100%, yeah. So for people who've joined webinars in the past, they'll know that part of our commitment to our clients and to the photography program is to be releasing new features to market every 30 days. And it's not just one, and it's not just a font change on the dashboard. It's something that actually makes a difference to you and your clients and the assets that you're able to provide. So over the last 30 days, we've released Virtual Tour Sky Replacement. So what that means is blue skies on images have been with us for some time. Now they're available on those virtual tours. So when you move from the inside to the outside of the property, you'll get in skies that suit the property, that move with you as you move around the virtual tour. Secondly is object removal, again, inside the virtual tours. The tool was a massive hit, using generative AI to fill in issues inside the property. So as an example, some unwanted clutter, dogs left to surprise in the garden, you can clear that up in real time for your client without having to pull the assets out into a different piece of software. That's now available inside the virtual tours as well. We've released our 3rd gen image AI model. So this is Rapid AI. It's a massive improvement to the color cast, contrast, the general editing. So it's bringing those virtual tour panoramas, which are the components that make up the visuals, in line with those amazing images that we're providing to every customer. And finally, is some big improvements to Listing Spotlight. So much more variety in terms of the social media outputs and the ability for agents to add their touch to the end of the listing spotlight in the form of a pack shot. So information, contact information, all that type of stuff. So some big features that have been requested heavily by our customers. And yeah, really happy to see those. And we will continue to do these 30-day releases in each of our webinars and on socials, etc.
Samy, quick question. Is there any feature that's like a bigger hit from our clients? What do you hear? Is there any of the 4 that stands out? What people have been mentioning most?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think for me, the virtual tour object removal has been major, right? Like it's one that agents and photographers and media providers can actually get their hands on and use. So like the virtual tour sky replacement is obviously really important because it's bringing everything kind of to the same caliber in terms of how the property looks. But for photographers and real estate media providers, being able to kind of edit those images and do things on behalf of their clients is really powerful. So if the agent says to the photographer, hey, I've just realized on the day there's this problem in the house, there's a leak we missed. Now a photographer can go and say, don't worry about it, I'll sort that out in a couple of seconds inside the virtual tour as well. So I think it's been a really kind of powerful add-on tool that's a big value add to the customers at the same time as a kind of a huge time saver, something that they would have had to do externally.
When I do a scan, I will always leave a camera bag in one of the shots. Like that's a mistake I can't just unlearn. There's always a camera bag sitting somewhere. I've been waiting for the object removal in the virtual tours for some time to error correct my imperfect scanning process. But
yeah, I like to put my head round the corner and check everything's okay, and then my shiny head ends up in the corner somewhere, so I can get rid of that nice and quickly now as well. Brilliant.
You should always capture with sound on the.
Fantastic. So we mentioned earlier pre-release for the Pro camera is live, and for our existing customers, as always, if you want to get involved, move on to the Pro technology and all of those amazing kind of content outputs that we've seen in previous webinars, then you can order your Pro camera through our customer success team. Just get in touch with us via the normal channels or via the chat bot inside your content studio. And for those of us who are here today who would love to get involved, join the photographer program, you can try Giraffe360's program for $123 per month. And that's inclusive of 5 free listings, which you can use over a 60-day period. So there is still space to be a part of that early bird and pre-release section for September shipments as well. Perfect. So I guess now we are on to the Q&A, and there have been some questions coming in. Again, if you do want to fire a question over, you can hit the QR code on screen here, fire them over via Slido, and we'll get to all of the questions that have been shared with us today. So first question, I believe, is, does Giraffe360 integrate directly with MLS listings and CRMs?
Samy, I think you're best to answer this time.
Yeah, 100%, happy to do so. So one of the kind of the core components here at Giraffe360 is that we want to be the most connected. We've said this for a while, right? We want to be the most connected technology out there in the world. And we are always open to working with CRMs, to working with MLSs. I know that the MLS integrations is something that our content team are working on quite heavily at the moment. So the ability to pull data from the MLS for realtors so they can really populate things like Listing Spotlight with what's going on in the back end. So yes, integration we're very open with, and we do work with tons of the major listing platforms for your virtual tours, images, floor plans, everything to be deliverable on those platforms as well.
And just to add, today our content is pre-produced to meet MLS's requirements. For example, MLS doesn't want any logos on the shot. So you in the content studio you can pick from branded content or MLS ready content. So we not necessarily have a direct integration with all the MLSs, but we have built our solution so it fits the rules for the MLSs. And as Samy said, we're now working to build the integration so we can be integrated with literally every single MLS in America.
Amazing, yeah, that's a really good point, and that's across everything from the floor plans all the way through to the virtual tours and immersive. You can create an MLS ready copy of the content for download as well. Next question.
Actually, unique thing. Sorry to add. Unique thing is the virtual tours, because I don't know any other company that actually adopts for these MLS rules how we have also on the virtual tour level, not only on photography and floor plan.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Next question. I love this question actually. How do you make sure that AI generated content doesn't mislead buyers? I can kind of start, right? Because it's something that people always ask. It's like, okay, I want to present the property, how the property looks. And so what we're doing is we're not going in there and saying, all right, let's repaint these walls, let's kill any patches in the grass. Like, what we're doing is making the property, we're enhancing the visuals of the property as much so the viewer gets the full experience. So it's not a case of, hey, we're going to go in there and make it look unreal. It's a case of bringing out the potential in that property in the content pieces. So it's enhancing, not editing, right? And it's the responsibility of the content creator to accurately represent the space. We're capturing a high quality and we're providing those high quality outputs. I hope that kind of answers the question, because it's a concept of a very interesting question.
Yeah, and I can only add that, but our AI models are designed based on today's marketing requirements, and because when we think about real photography today photography, virtual tours, everything's enhanced. We kind of don't even like the dark images. Like, there has been very heavy industry push. It's a cultural push that the marketing image is the accepted image, and I think, Samy, you nicely draw the line. We can enhance the image according to the marketing standard, because people want to have the best presentation possible of the place, but you can't cross the line and suddenly without notifying a user to add things that doesn't exist there, like completely change the environment. So that's the line in which, when you're crossing, is you're starting to misrepresent the space. But the enhancement, that's been the industry standard. And when we started Giraffe360, we actually researched like some 30 countries portals, and we looked on what's the set standard for the image quality. And what's a fun fact is it's not the same. There's, depending on the regions, there's different standards of how people want to perceive pictures, and so training in the AI, we are using then these standards, how the markets have defined them.
Yeah, and even like we're going kind of fully in on that as well, because I know from speaking with some of the product owners that they're working on styles which are like as true to life as possible. So for those customers who really just want, give me the base, kind of like depiction of the space, don't brighten, don't amalgamate, like we're even working on kind of from that level. So it's something that we are committed to.
Because there will be users who want to rent online, who want to completely do online transaction, and that kind of a client will optimize for maybe not as enhanced image, but it needs to be more true to life. So these editing styles is the filters, we could call them, that are a real thing, but ultimately the buyer makes that decision. Our role in this process as a technology supplier is we want to give that optionality. Our media partner photographer applies the optionality based on the client requirements, and so but we want to build the optionality so the market can decide.
100%. So next question, how do you make sure that AI doesn't get room sizes or property dimensions wrong?
Yannis?
I guess
how do you get it?
First, you do a good AI, but no. Actually, when it comes to do property size, we're not relying on AI really. This is where we really rely on data. So for the dimensional accuracies, we rely on LiDAR scans. The AI is then used in automations as visualizing tool to draw these floor plans. I guess that's a short answer. When it comes to property accuracy, it's a big topic that we will try to talk more in upcoming webinars, and we're not, because it is an interesting topic as well, very technical one, but in short, I can say AI is not used, at least when it comes to dimensions.
Yeah, great.
On the accuracy, I would only want to add, I think it's a very important nugget that Yanis you threw in there, that what is accuracy, and actually it's different depending on different standards. And America's core standard of residential real estate is the ANSI standard, which defines the rules of how these measurements needs to be applied. But if we use RICS standard, or where we operate in Germany, German banking standard, then the same space gets represented differently. So we really need to correlate the conversation, the accurate data input and representation according these different standards. And it's a bit fascinating topic, because when we ask these questions from a consumer level, they usually ask from a level that there is this core truth, that there is something that's like absolutely accurate floor plan, but actually it's more nuanced. It's a legal standard. But I guess where we can pride the technology today is the amount of sensors and the information that gets collected. And we're really working hard on calibrating the sensory, so we can really push for the highest tier of accuracy.
Brilliant. And I guess the next question is definitely for you as well, Yanis. So is the SLAM tracking affected by mirrors and small spaces?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, let's say it like this: it definitely is affected in a sense that it causes challenges, but we have tools and instruments to compensate for that. This is where we use panoramas and also visual support to detect these and then compensate accordingly. Small spaces can be a bit tricky. There's definitely a minimum, which is simply because of how the tracking works better if you have 50 centimeters, maybe 30 centimeters offset of the camera. If it goes closer to that, we simply cut out like point cloud data at the moment in a specific radius around the camera. We do it for two reasons. One is when we deliver this point cloud data, we actually extract points that are the tripod itself, because the camera in some angles see the tripod, and we don't want the camera or tripod to be present in this data. So there's definitely in some cases some cutoff radius. And small rooms are also tricky because you often don't do too much scans there. Obviously, we really like the data, and our pipeline likes if you do like 1 to 3, optimally more than one. We really prefer 2 to 3 scans per room, right? But if it's a really small space, you often can only do one, and then the importance of data quality is that much higher, and is that much more pressure on that single scan, right? But but mirrors and windows, even though it's tricky, so far we have tools to work with that.
Do you know Christopher Nolan's movie Inception?
Yeah,
with Leonardo DiCaprio. I feel the
where the corridor
feels like
is created. You mean now, or another one?
The world gets distorted, and so it's like I feel that sometimes with the mirrors, the AI feels that we are entering its Inception. So it's more. I don't know if that.
Yeah, I mean, technically and honestly speaking, this is also this camera and technology is really made for residential real estate. It's and this is why this selective kind of these sensors and principles that we have tailored and selected really works in this environment. Like, for example, if it's a amusement park where you have these mirror rooms, right? I'm pretty sure that will be a tough nugget for us. If it's just mirrors and mirrors everywhere, that might be tricky. Though I'm not sure. I'm curious what would happen, but it's not really. There's some limits for sure how much mirrors we can handle.
Brilliant. Next up, so if agents are expecting more than just photos, how do you get floor plans and virtual tours to them? And I think kind of the way I've understood this question is if the agent expects more, how do you also get to the point where you're able to provide more as a media partner?
But I guess that's the question: is who's the driver for change? And there is we represent the technology side. We that creates a possibility. The media partner is the link that then works with the real estate agent, and real estate agent gets probably influenced from, I would say, two main stakeholders in their business. It's the buyers. What do they require? The second one is the listing portals, and then probably the third one is the photographer influencing kind of what's possible. But it's ultimately, to some extent, the real estate agent needs to make a shift into their requirements for these things to be adopted, or it's the listing portals. It's how I would think about a real life adoption of the innovation.
Yeah, and as you say, Mikus, like we're providing the technology that would allow a media partner to, from that single visit, provide all of the assets that an agent could request, right?
Yeah,
so,
and buyers have been screaming from top of their lungs. The floor plan has been the second most requested item by home buyers for now a couple of years. The demand for the 3D tours is almost 10 times higher than it is the adoption rate. So we see that the buyers are requesting better online experience for properties, and with technology we can now give the options to produce it very simply. But yeah, the real estate agent in this case is the buyer, or the brokerages are the buyers, and their influence and their requirement change needs to happen, and hopefully our photographers can do that.
Brilliant. Next question: is the LiDAR able to capture outdoor photos, etc.? And I guess I can clarify for you, Ainars, very briefly. The LiDAR is designed purely to capture the spatial data, right? So this is the measurements. The Giraffe360 camera can be used to create all of the other content types outside, and we recommend our customers do. I remember I saw, last year a photographer had captured a castle in France, and it was like the tennis courts and the pond and like walking through the woods. So absolutely, you can use the system outside. And we recommend that our clients do, right? You want to show the whole property. But there is something in there as well, Ainars, potentially for you around kind of LiDAR usage outside and what that looks like.
Yeah. So when it comes to the floor plans, right, that's primarily indoors. And this is where the LiDAR 3D scan really shines and is really used. When it comes to the outdoor setting, at the moment we're showing like a panorama scans that you do outdoors. We still show them in these virtual tours, for example, right? But the scan itself, like the point cloud data, we also deliver it to the user, but it's not converted to like a floor plan in that sense. And like you pointed out, these two things are separate. Like one thing is LiDAR, which is for the point clouds and a 3D spatial data collection, and the other thing is photos. If you talk about still photos, our camera has still image capture mode, which is used both for indoors and outdoors. You can adjust the angle, you can adjust the field of view. There are a couple of settings you can do, and it works for any kind of environment. And the same goes for the panorama. It also works for both settings. But I guess where outdoors is tricky in the sense that at the moment we're not generating this kind of property top-down blueprint, or how would you call this? That sometimes is generated for the properties, this kind of field, anything that outside of the kind of indoors. So yeah,
I got some sort of map. But I think an important limitation, maybe for me to mention, is that means that we've been showcasing the Gaussian splat video feature, which will be possible with the Pro camera. It will be limited to the indoor spaces because for that production, the LiDAR is important, and so we will not be able to produce like these outside flying beautiful views. That they will be limited for the indoor spaces, definitely for the earlier releases. That will be the limitation that people need to be aware of, or should be good.
Nice. One that we've heard before. So a remote control will be desirable, utilized via an iPhone app. Yanis, I'm definitely going to hand this one to you because I know you've explored this.
I'm looking forward to this one as well. I have to say that at the moment we don't have that functionality yet, but we definitely have it in our kind of to-do list. Hard to say when to expect this around. Probably not this year, but we'll see. We're very busy at the moment with launching the Pro camera and all the pipeline, etc. Once that's being cleared, we will revisit our pipeline and then we'll let everyone know what's next. And this is definitely among the features we have heard from our customers. There's some, I mean, for those who maybe are not so familiar with the capture flow, what is really required for the user is to leave the room while the scan is happening, right? And we have this sound notification that comes from the camera once the scan is done, so you can come back and move the camera to the next spot, right? And sometimes you miss this sound, right? Or let's say if you want to check if everything is okay while this scan is being done. So it's not a critical function, but we see that, it could, in some corner cases, that would be a nice thing to do, to add. And we are definitely looking into how we could address this in the future as well.
We love to hear feedback and product requests. It's just, I know the teams love it. Next up, Mikus, one you're going to like. Will you be supplying marketing materials for photographers, such as video, print, and social media, email templates that the photographer can brand for themselves?
Yes, but I don't have the ETA. I guess this is a good shout for other Yanis in who leads the photographer program, that we wanna get the collaterals ready and help our partners with their marketing. Yes, no ETA, but yes, we definitely want to do that.
But I think, Mikus, the question is also asking, will we supplying materials that the photographer can brand for themselves? And so there is the element of, we want to put together a marketing pack that photographers can use to like market the services that they can provide as a Giraffe360 photographer. But also maybe it's good to look at Listing Spotlight as a part of this as well, because every time you capture, you'll be able to generate social media, print and email ready content for your agent. So that in itself is a form of marketing that you can utilize from day one of using your Giraffe360 camera systems.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you covered it nicely.
Yeah. Next up, I currently use Matterport and Cubicasa for tour, floor plan photos and information points. It requires stationary scans. Is Giraffe in motion during scans, and am I able to capture 2D photos from the product?
I guess I can take this one. So we're also working with the stationary scans and also for the stationary image capture. The reason being, you just get so much more light and exposure to work with to get really good visual assets. And when it comes to the scan accuracy, for now, even though we also collect some of it in the transit, when you go from A to B, we are actually using only for the final data. We're only using these scans because they're just so much more accurate. When it comes to the 2D photos, the best quality is if you use a tripod like our camera and shoot the image on at the property, right? Though there is an option for like extract from the panoramas also through a screen view, or let's call it like that, through our dashboard tool as well. It's already available there and has been for a while. So you could technically get the image out from the panorama, though in my opinion, the image quality is that much better if you do a 2D image shoot right away with a camera, our camera, in that sense.
Yeah.
Perfect. Final question for today. So who owns the final product? Is it downloadable for historical purposes? And I guess this is the content that's generated during the capture process.
Samy, do you want to answer it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Whoever has the Giraffe360 camera subscription is the person that owns the final asset. So the virtual tours, floor plans, and any downloadable content is yours. You own the rights to that content. All of the panoramas that make up the virtual tours can be downloaded, etc., etc. The only kind of caveat is that the virtual tours themselves are hosted on our infrastructure. So yeah, the virtual tours are accessible via a link, and yeah, you need a subscription for those tours to be live, but you own essentially the intellectual property rights. We will never use our client's data, even for marketing purposes, without asking the client in advance. We only use the captured data anonymized to feedback and train the systems internally.
Yeah.
So yes, I guess that is us for today.
Yeah. Thanks
sorry,
everyone who joined in.
Sorry, just going to say,
once.
somebody did ask if the previous webinars are available, and yes, they are available on our YouTube profile. And there's tons of information, kind of like amazing concepts that we shared around the drone footage, the release of the Pro camera, and so yeah, lots of really exciting stuff in those as well.
Yeah, if three of us hasn't bored you for the last hour or so, then you can go and get 3 more hours of us going down similar rabbit holes. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much today. Thank you, Mikus and Yanis, for joining again, and for everybody who's listened. And can't wait for the next one.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mikus, Samy, and Janice. And thanks for the Giraffe360 special offer for the WGAN community. Try the Giraffe Pro camera risk-free for 60 days. Just $123 per month for 2 months with no long-term commitment. Scan up to 10 complete property listings at no additional charge, and the test drive includes all add-ons. For full details and to order, visit wgan.info/Giraffe360-Pro. If you're watching this WGAN-TV podcast show after the offer expires, you can still redeem Giraffe360 free blue sky replacement for HDR photos with voucher code WGAN at Giraffe360.com, where you can build your own bundle and subscribe. If you have follow-up questions about the Giraffe Pro camera or the Giraffe360 photographer program, please post them in the We Get Around Network forum at WeGetAroundNetworkForum.com, or contact Giraffe360 using the Giraffe360 Contact Us page at Giraffe360.com. For all WGAN-TV podcast episodes, look for WGAN-TV in your favorite podcast app or go to WGAN-TV.com. Thank you for watching this episode of the WGAN-TV podcast.